Hey everybody, welcome to Abas Professionals. I'm here with Andrew, and today we're going to talk about 100 years-ish of the American battle rifle. So behind us, we've got from what we would call the first generation American battle rifle up to what we're using today. So we're going to talk a little bit today about when they became a thing in the United States military, why, and go from there. But Andrew, as my resident Marine, is definitely a lot more associated with these than what I am. So I'm going to let him lead the charge on this, starting with the 1930s.
So first, a lot of people don't really realize that before the battle rifle came on the scene, wars were fought with bolt actions and muzzle loaders. I mean, you talk about what you would now think today of the capabilities of a bolt action. I mean, that was what wars were fought with.
Yeah, it was cutting edge.
It was cutting edge back then. And then we needed something that had that same power of a full power rifle cartridge, but that was semi-automatic. It just needed to happen. And in the 30s, we came out with the M1 Garand, which other countries had already kind of gone this way too. So we were by no means the first to create this idea, but the M1 Garand was kind of our spin on what would then become known as the battle rifle.
I'm pretty sure the Garand was early for sure, but if I remember correctly from doing our research prior to this video, it was FN that was in Belgium that kind of designed the first full power cartridge, is kind of what they talk about.
There was some Belgium examples. There's also some Russian guns.
Yep.
A lot of stuff coming out of that Eastern European area that was really starting to lean towards what we would now call a modern battle rifle.
And what's really interesting with it too is it follows kind of the Industrial Revolution in the United States. So World War I was fought with a lot of bolt actions. There's plenty of other options too, but where you really started to see the bridge between World War I and World War II, you started to see the adaptability to a semi-auto, we're calling it a Magnum cartridge.
Yeah.
A Magnum cartridge gun, so you could have that force multiplier. You could extend your range, but there was a hell of a lot of innovation that happened between the World Wars.
I think it was really brought on by the obvious gap in technology, because at the time the M1 Garand came out, hadn't Maxim already been making machine guns for 50 years?
Lewis too.
So you already had all these massive emplaced and multi-man portable machine guns on the battlefield, but then everybody else is running around with a bolt action and a revolver or like a single stack, hammer fire pistol. It's like,
Two World Wars, baby.
There's some sort of gap there. And the M1 Garand was the natural consequence of having that gap. And then, as we see here on the wall, over the next 100 years, we've taken kind of that concept and we've refined it to meet the needs of the modern battlefield, as America often does.
Yeah, and take a step back and let's look at the World Wars. I mean, what was the uniform of the day during the World Wars?
Oh, a heavy wool coat.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your old school web belts and stuff like that, but there was no armor to speak of. There was nothing like that. And then, even though the enemy we faced today, they're not wearing armor either. You, as a country in a defense budget, you budget for going up as a title fight.
Oh yeah.
You prepare, at least when I was when we did exercises on China, Russia, stuff like that, theaters that are going to be a force on force type war, not a guerrilla warfare type situation. So you need to add capabilities to the platform too. And that's kind of where the evolution comes from.
Now, after the M1 Garand, we kind of moved on to the M14, and the M14 was an absolutely great gun, but a lot of people will recognize it as the service rifle with the shortest life of any American service rifle. And the reason is because we realized exactly what you just said. We realized we're not ever fighting people with armor, and what really wins wars is force multipliers. So we need to be able to carry more ammo, we need more mag capacity, we need higher rates of fire. And we moved to the intermediate cartridge provided by the AR-15. So we went to 5.56 as opposed to 308. Now, going to 5.56 allowed guys to carry way more ammo. It allowed guys to shoot a lot more rounds. And it allowed them to be that force multiplier. However, the reason the battle rifle never died is because exactly what you just said. There is times where you need armor. You need to be able to defeat armor, whether it's shooting through a wall or shooting through, heavy brush or things like that.
In our war, it was cars, windshields, things like that.
Yeah, 5.56 and those intermediate cartridge rounds, they do all sorts of weird things when they go through bushes, they go through glass. 308, it doesn't really care.
Depending on the distance, but yeah.
Right.
It's a 30 cal bullet. I mean, it punches through things.
Exactly. So you start to see almost every single military unit all across America switching to the M16 or the M4 variant. But everybody still had that AR-10 still sitting in the armory. A lot of people saw the Knight's Armament or the Remington semi-automatic sniper system, the RSAS. Those kind of guns, they were always there in the background to fit those marksmanship roles for that guy. I know in my unit, we had 1 or 2 guys with them, and if there was someone shooting at us from 700 or 800 yards away, rather than shoot at them with our M4s and M16s, we just call up the guy with the AR-10 and be like, hey, just take care of this problem for us.
I got to see in theater one time a dude carrying an M110 SWS, and from that point I was like, I need one of those.
It's just, that suppressor is the sexiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like a 13-inch can, man.
I know.
Knights, do you still make that thing? Like, I haven't seen it anywhere.
But that guy's back and knees have got to be so screwed up from lugging around all that 308. Because, he had to carry his Sierra Match King. He had to carry his black tip. He had to carry all of his different loads.
Not only that, but from what I understand anyway, and anybody can call me on this if I'm wrong, but a designated marksman in a unit typically has 3 platforms on them. They've got their marksman rifle, they've got their squad rifle, and they've got their sidearm.
So our guys...
that's in my experience, what I've seen anyway.
My AR-10 guy, they did have Colt M4s, like little M4s with like an aim point on them that they would keep slung on their back, and then they would carry the M110. Sometimes they had a sidearm, sometimes they didn't, but that was just kind of the Marine Corps in general because we're too poor for everyone to have a pistol. Yeah. But the AR-10 was a great gun. And anybody who's ever tried to build one knows that the greatest flaw of the AR-10 was that it was never formally standardized. So parts and pieces don't always match up. They're not all compatible like the AR-15 is.
Wasn't that pretty much driven by Armalite, though?
It kind of was. There was different patterns of the rifle being designed. It was never truly contract adopted, so it never became like a NATO spec weapon.
But that... in innovation and in manufacturing, that happens. So the AR-10 was definitely not standardized, but its European partner, the right arm of the free world, the FNFAL, also not standardized, even to this day, because there's inch pattern and there's metric pattern. And one mag works with both, one mag only works with one, and I can never remember which one it is, so I go to Google every time.
You just buy a lot of FAL parts, and eventually you'll have a working full FAL.
Yeah, but some of them are built on Western standards, some are based on European standards, so it's really weird.
Do you have a Belgian? Do you have an Israeli? Do you have a Brazilian?
Yeah, Rhodesian. Yeah. Yeah, this video is 100% the American battle rifle. Sure. But boy, there's some kick-ass battle rifles that were developed throughout the years. I mean, the Gewehr from Germany dominated for a long time until, we won World War II. And then after that, even the German Allied forces were still using them for defensive purposes for their defense forces. And
there were even a lot of really great AK platforms that were made in 308 that took very similar magazines to like an FAL, and it was a very similar kind of operation. I mean, look at the Galil.
Yep.
The Galil was another famous example of a great battle rifle. So you can't like disregard the HK either. So
yeah, but the HK, which one? The G3?
Yeah.
Because the G3 was nothing but the German copy of the
FAL,
stylized after the FAL. Yeah, not what we know today, but the 50s, 60s era.
In that heyday of the battle rifle, I think that the biggest reason that you started to see everybody start to develop one was because we were leaning a little bit heavier towards the AR-10, and the AR-10 had reliability problems. An AR-15 or an M16 or an M4 of the time could last tens of thousands of rounds on the battlefield with very minimal service, whereas AR-10s just did not have that same reliability.
Of the time.
Right. AR-10s are famous for dying young, essentially. They wear their parts so fast. They wear out the little tiny pieces of the bolt. They break so easily. So you started to see all these other companies coming out with battle rifles. Now, flash forward all the way to today, we have the 2022 example, the SIG Spear. This attempts to take the AR-10 and some of the features of like the AR-18 and what the more piston guns that are more soft on the operation system, that are a little bit more reliable and
easier to dial in with a suppressor.
Way easier to dial in. They don't beat themselves to death. And you end up with a gun that, albeit costs a lot of money.
Well, if the government's paying for it, double what you think.
Oh, yeah, of course. But you get a gun that's going to be way more reliable on the battlefield. It's going to be way more adaptable on the battlefield, which is exactly what you're looking for. And, you know, they're offering it in every caliber under the sun. 277 Fury, ha ha ha. But, you know,
I want to talk about that in a second.
308 and 6.5 Creed are more than likely what you'll see this thing fielded in the most often. But the ability to suppress it, the ability to get into the hands of as many shooters as possible, they went ahead and they used the exact same controls that everybody's already familiar with. Don't reinvent the wheel. And this gun is the textbook definition of a force multiplier.
I love the fact that they've kept the ergonomics of the fire control unit of the AR pattern in general, because, I mean, we're 3 and 4 generations deep on U.S. forces being used to that fire control unit. So whether you're training on an M4 or an M16 or a new Spear, the trigger, the safety, bolt catch, mag release is all going to be the same spot. And it takes me back to, you know, World War II, the grenades in World War II. You know why they were spherical? They were the size of a baseball. You know why they were the size of a baseball?
Because everybody knew how to throw a baseball.
Exactly. And that's when they went in training, especially in that part of the world in that time frame, was every grown boy was a baseball player, so they could throw a baseball. And that's kind of why they designed it that way. Same thing here. We've taken something that is a platform in the AR-10, which is just a supersized M16 from 50 years ago, and we've kept it the same ergonomically and feel-wise for today's fight.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right?
100%. Now, let's talk about cartridge, right? So we started off with 30-06. That was the Cadillac of its day, boy. That thing, that round, even still to this day, 30-06 is a great cartridge.
30-06 is a hell of a round.
So we took it, little performance for what was needed for U.S. forces, and adapted the 308 platform, 308 Winchester. Then, you know, NATO comes around and exists after World War II. They adopted to a metric pattern, so 7.62 by 51. Unlike 223 and 5.56, 7.62 by 51 and 308 Winchester are identical.
Yeah, pretty much. They're the same thing.
223, 5.56, there is like 1/10,000th of an inch difference technically, but 308 and then by 51 are the same cartridge. And we did that, and we're still doing that to this day. So you're talking 50s to the 20s, if you will, for 70 years. And then here comes SIG, kicking in the door and going, we're going to create a whole new cartridge, and 277 Fury. And I've seen the data on it, and it is a superior load.
It's amazing.
But here's the problem, and here's why I don't think it will ever see traditional force use. Keep in mind, special operations units, a lot of them get to use whatever the hell they want because of the nature of their mission, and that's great. But your standard infantrymen, your standard riflemen, if this ever comes around, it's going to be in 308 Winchester.
Yep.
And one reason only, NATO. It is a NATO-adapted cartridge.
I worked in the rifle schoolhouse. I taught guys how to shoot guns. I was there. The reps would show up. They would be showing off new prototypes. You know, I got to get a lot of hands-on with a lot of stuff like this. I'm telling you, a guy's going to walk through the door with this MCX Spear and 277 Fury. He's going to be like, look at how cool this gun is and everything it can do. They're going to go out to the range. They're going to shoot all the free expensive ammo that SIG provides. And they're going to be like, cool, I'll take 5 and 308.
Yeah.
Because I already have a warehouse of 308. Yeah. And that's not going to change.
We have 70 years of using 7.62 NATO. And we have 2 years, not even, of them trying to pedal to, well, when something comes in, they call it IOC, initial operational capacity or capability. It's when it becomes adapted by the United States forces in any capacity. So that's when it gets its NATO designation, like the M16, the M4, whatever. This is not. It's only been around for a couple years, and even the ones that I understand that have been field tested with 308.
I wholeheartedly believe that there will be some military units that get a 277 Fury gun.
Sure. That bullet is a superior cartridge.
Absolutely.
To 308.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wholeheartedly believe that the belt fed in like 338 that they're doing, that's probably going to get adopted too.
The only way so if for anybody who's a saw gunner, all it has to do is run.
Yeah.
And you're good.
If it runs, it's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
240s are a little more reliable. 240, and that's, I guess, apples and oranges, right? 5.56 versus 308, but still.
You're talking about generations of training on the 308 platform, the known ballistic data and training information on the 308 platform, the worldwide availability of ammo of the 308 platform.
Again, NATO.
Yeah, I can go anywhere in the world and probably get M80 ball, as long as I'm not in like
Russia.
Probably, yeah, probably in Russia
because of sanctions.
You're right, but I mean, like at just about anywhere you could do it, and most likely that's exactly what this is going to be. It's like how in America we're all phasing out 40 Smith & Wesson, but the rest of the world is still using 40 Smith & Wesson. It's never going to go away.
Like Mexico, 38 Super. 38 Super is popular in competition because of the power factor for it.
Yeah.
But it'll never go in the United States market because in Mexico, you cannot have the same cartridge that law enforcement carry, and they carry 9mm or 45.
Yep.
So 38 Super, like Colts and shit, they sell all the time around the border.
That's the only reason 357 SIG still exists.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah. But yeah, we have the evolution of the American battle rifle represented here, and what's hilarious is, unlike a lot of things that the United States military has done, the battle rifle has a very long track record, but also has very few platforms.
The battle rifle is a very interesting gun that I love to talk about because it reaches further, it hits harder, it's more adaptable, it has a much wider availability of different kinds of loads. It is it is probably the most adaptable weapon to any battlefield situation. I mean, that's literally why it's called the battle rifle.
Yep.
And I don't think it will ever go away.
No, I don't either.
But I also don't think that the intermediate cartridge rifles, the assault rifles...
Don't even start that bullshit.
Oh, God. I don't ever think those will go away either. If anybody has any delusions that the new SIG MCX is going to make the M16 obsolete, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy. It will never happen. In order for that to ever be a reality, every single machine shop in the entire country would have to start tooling up to make MCXs. We'd have to make 1 million of them a year and then throw all the M16s in a burn pile somewhere.
That will never happen.
Right.
Eugene Stoner hit the ball out of the park in the 1950s, and there's no reason to look back. Let's just modernize it, which we're doing.
And that's the hilarious part. It is just a modernization of another Stoner design.
I will tell you, the one thing that over the years and years of doing this that drives me nuts of a term that came out, and it involves the battle rifle.
Oh, God.
Was this guy right here.
The clips.
The M1 Garand. Boys and girls, this is a clip.
That's a clipazine right there.
This is a stripper clip, or not a stripper clip, but this is a clip that loads in.
It's a block clip.
Yeah, it's a block clip that loads into an M1 Garand. This is why everybody calls it a goddamn clip. This and those are magazines. So clips exist and magazines exist, but they're not the same thing. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I'm not an elitist with it. I never correct anybody on it, but inside a part of my soul dies every time you hear somebody go, "How many clips it got?" And you're like,
how many clips that thing come with?
It comes with 2 9mm magazines, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a clip. That's a mag.
A 30 mag clip?
30 magazine clip, half a second.
Oh.
Was that De La Cruz from California from like 10 years ago with the ghost gun thing? It hurts hilarious.
It hurts every
time. All right. We're getting off on a tangent. We hope y'all took something away from this today. Appreciate your history, especially with, U.S. military. The military is what drives a lot of innovation in the firearms industry. Everybody's trying to come out with the next battle rifle, the next patrol rifle, the next this, the next that, and that's what dominates. Being better than everybody else out there is what drives innovation in the firearms industry.
We always talk about use case on here.
Mm-hmm.
Final question. In today's modern shooting sports world, do you think there's any use case of a battle rifle?
100%. There's not Cardinal Shooting Center, but the one in Lake Erie that I can never remember. Camp Perry. They do retro shoots all the time with Garands and with M14s with iron sights out to 500 and 600 yards. And you'll see guys out there in their 70s just ringing steel.
I'll tell you also, just about anybody I know who tries to use their normal AR-15 for also a hunting purpose, they always seem to be pretty disappointed by it. Like, you take your AR-15 hog hunting, and you're like, it was okay.
And I killed like 300 blackout.
Right, I killed some hogs, but it works. I'll tell you, get yourself an AR-10, get good with it, and then go hog hunting with it. You're going to be blown away.
Get you a helicopter.
And
find some pigs. And that'll be fun. Hey, we're getting off on a tangent. We're trying to keep this a little bit shorter. But we have our ammo giveaway still. So don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe just on YouTube. And after we get to 2,500 subs, which the channel has been growing quite a bit in the last few weeks, so we definitely appreciate that. We hope you're enjoying the content. But for all those who aren't subscribed, 500 rounds Winchester brass case 9mm could be coming your way. So you got anything else to add outside of the history and the evolution of the American battle rifle?
All these guns are is force multipliers. Multiply your force. Get a battle rifle.
You sound like Vault-Tec. All right. I'm Zack. He's Andrew, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.